The early days of an entrepreneur are tough, especially if you don't have the resources. And 18 years ago, there was nothing known as a startup. It was either you ran your parents' business or you did a job. There was nothing in the middle. The best founders tend to have incredible amount of focus. We are actually quite blessed at Titan, to be honest, that usually when we give an offer to a founder, they take it. Margins are the soul of a business. A founder can't say that today I'm a 20% gross margin business. Once the business becomes large, we'll become a 60% margin business. It will never happen.
So thanks, Saurabh. Thanks, Kunal, for taking out the time.
Thank you, Pratham.
On a Monday. I'm sure, Kunal, you're doubly busy now with your new job.
Yeah, people keep reminding me about that.
No, but thanks again, and congratulations on your book. I got the chance to read a little bit, and I have to tell you that this is a major problem. You're solving a major problem for startup founders like us. In the audience today, we have students ranging from 17 years old all the way to 25. All of them are starting companies right now because that's our curriculum. And all of them have problems with teams and hiring and the initial cold start problem. So we'll focus on that, if that's okay. I'm not going to introduce you because they've already done their research. I'm guessing everybody has. Yeah. We also have students from 45 countries here. We have the Tetter cohort as well. What's up, guys? All right. So let's get started. My first question is for Kunal. Okay. Kunal, when you were building a team initially, what were some of the challenges that you faced? What were some of the mistakes you made? And how did you overcome them? Just from a hiring and team building standpoint.
Yeah, firstly, it's a pleasure being here, and thank you, Pratham. Pratham was showing me around earlier, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, like what you guys have as a campus. And I'm sure even more impressive is just the quality of the students and the quality of the impact each one of you is creating. Particularly impressive was the fact that everyone's here building companies. And when rooms are called CAC and DAO and IRR, I mean, success is nearly guaranteed, right? But it's amazing. And I learned right now with great joy that Pratham was part of the same program I was a part of, which was the Management and Technology program at UPenn. I remember in 2002 when I went there, I was the only kid who from India who was part of the M&T program. And I can tell you it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. I was a shy 17, 18-year-old who had never been to the US for vacation or anything. No one in my extended family had ever been to the US also. And showing up on that campus, being welcomed in the way that I was welcomed, and the M&T program just opening my mind to all the possibilities in life. Interestingly, I'd never shaken hands with a non-Indian person before I got to my campus. I think it was like August 19th, 2002. From there on, just getting the opportunities I got was immense and life-changing, to be honest. And when I was walking around your beautiful campus here, it just took me back 23 odd years where it feels like this place is likely doing the same for each one of you. So, which is really, really incredible. And congratulations to you,
Thank you.
Pratham.
Thank you.
Now, and also I'm so happy to be here to support this amazing book launch by my good friend and former colleague Saurabh. Like when Saurabh said, Kunal, we want to do a book launch. Will you come? What did I say? Yes, because that's what you do, right? Like when someone you work with, someone who's done so much for you, someone who's been an instrumental part of your journey as an entrepreneur, your professional journey in any which way, even if, I think Saurabh left us in 17.
17.
So it's been 8 years, but to his credit, he stayed in touch. And because all the things he did for us, the moment he said, Kunal, we want to launch the book and will you come? I said, of course. Right. And I'm so happy and so thrilled to be here and get this great opportunity to spend time with you guys. And we should make it interactive because I think that's the fun part. So we answer the questions that you guys have. Look, in the early days when when Rohit and I started, my co-founder, who all of you know, I'm sure, we had like a basement office in the house of a lawyer in Kirti Nagar Furniture Market, right? If some of you are familiar. I mean, this guy, like this lawyer, he was like, I don't want to pay tax, so you have to pay me. It's a 14,000 rupee a month rent, so you need to pay me 7,000 rupees cash and 7,000 rupees check. So it stays below the bar of paying tax. So that's the kind of things that you have to deal with in the early days. And 18 years ago, there was nothing known as a startup, right? It was either you ran your parents' business, you just joined them, or you did a job. There was nothing in the middle. So this whole concept of two 23-year-olds starting a company, building a company, and hiring people to join them who are arguably much older than them, or 4, 5, 6, 10 years older than them, and you're not paying them a lot of money either because you don't have a lot of money to pay, pose some interesting challenges, some really practical challenges. And I recall, I remember when, so my sister-in-law was kind of our HR recruiting manager, and she used to do it from home. And she used to call the candidates. She used to go to Naukri.com and pull out candidate profiles and call them, and she would give them the address, and they would come. She would say, there's a black gate, because it was inside a residential colony. There's a black gate. You open that gate, you go in. There's a blue Zen, which many of you may not even know, was a car. It was a very popular car 25 years ago, but many may not be born then. But there's a blue Zen which is parked there. You take a right from there. There's a little gully. You go through that, and on the right you'll see a black door. You press the bell, and when the bell would get pressed, either Rohit or I would open the door. And then we would bring the person in. The living room was the boardroom, and we would basically do the interviews there. The early days of an entrepreneur are tough. Very, very, very tough, especially if you don't have the resources in the early stages. But you got to just keep going and never lower the bar, right? I think one of the greatest lessons we imposed on ourselves was never lower the bar when you're hiring. Even if you're hiring someone who's at the entry level, never lower the bar. And one of the practices we had from day one till present day in all our businesses is the fact that if anyone's coming into the company, they need to show great amount of intellectual humility. They need to put in effort to get in. It can't be easy to get in, and you have the same homogeneous high bar for everyone. And the way we did that was, and Saurabh knows, everyone has to prepare a case study, right? Like, we make it tough, right? So we give 4 bullet points saying, imagine you are in this role that you're coming to us for recruitment. Here are 5 bullet points of what we need you to answer, right? Let's say it's a marketing role. How will you go traffic? This is the budget, right? How will you increase conversion rate? So on and so forth. And use any publicly available information to prepare your case. Funnily, 80% people never even prepared a case. They just went blank. They just vanished. And those are exactly the people you don't want in your company, because they just want the easy way in. And of the 20% that are remaining, 10%, 15% do an average job, and only 5% do a great job. And those are the people you want in your company. And that, just the discipline around ensuring that you keep the bar high, make people work to get into the company, and also exhibit great amount of intellectual humility that, look, you don't know anything about this role, anything about this company, anything about this space, but given a clean slate, can you think on your feet or not? And those who can, and those who are willing to put the effort, usually end up doing very well in the companies once they join.
All right, it's a great start.
I have that deck still with me, the one which you made me prepare.
What was Kunal like?
Okay.
I can leave.
Very much what he just said, right? I mean, hard taskmaster, holds you accountable, but gives you complete freedom. And that's the best part about working with Kunal, is that, he would not tell you do this, but he would absolutely let you know that what is expected, right, and what his expectations are, and then you figure it out. And if you struggle or if you make a mistake, you can rest assured that you can go to him, and then we can discuss, and we'll take the learnings out of it and then move forward, right? So that's the best part about working with Kunal, that he will hold you with highest degree of accountability, but give you complete freedom and flexibility to explore and figure out.
Got it. And question for both of you: how did you go about building that startup hustle culture in your respective roles? And how is it that Snapdeal and all of your other ventures have stood the test of time? There's a public company, there's a fund, there's of course, but still has that hustle energy. What have you done to keep that alive?
From the outside, it seems like there's this celebration of the hustle culture, right? And oftentimes it feels like it's the hustle that creates success. Hustle is a very small element of it. The most important part of leadership and building a business with a team is creating an environment of trust. It starts with that. It starts with building an environment of trust where people you work with, they need to trust you and you need to be able to trust them. And people ask, okay, so how do we build trust, right? Because in the end, building trust is not that straightforward, but also not that difficult. You have to build trust by being authentic. You have to be clear. Obviously, as a leader of an organization, you can't in a public forum, you can't reveal everything because some things will be confidential, some things will be work in progress. But it is important to be extremely, extremely authentic and transparent with your team. So, and the way we do that is the mantra we follow is it's 3 words. And if there are the 3 most important words that you guys should remember as you're building your companies, your organizations, your teams, the most important 3 words are communicate, communicate, communicate. That's it. In the end, the biggest problem in companies happen when the leaders stop communicating with their team. Whether it's good news, bad news, very ugly news, you have to keep communicating. Saurabh knows that we have monthly town halls, literally from the time I can remember, from the time we had statistically significant number of team members that having a town hall made sense. Otherwise, everyone was just sitting around us. We've been doing town halls, right? Even to present day, we do monthly town halls. What happens is when in normal circumstances, let's call it peacetime, when you're communicating frequently, when wartime comes or very ugly times come, and you're still communicating at the same cadence and the same transparency, your team trusts you, your team believes you. Especially when you tell them that, guys, these are the things that are going still fine. These are the things that are not going fine. Here are the things we have a plan for, and here are the things we don't have a plan for, and we are open to hearing your views about what should be the plan. People trust you then. The long faces in troubled times for a business, and every business goes through its troubled times, the long faces turn into missionary faces. They suddenly want to coalesce, they want to galvanize together to solve a problem versus just worry about that, oh, we are in a problematic situation, because that's not particularly productive. So one of the ways that we've actually been able to weather, I've been building our business along with Rohit for 18 years now. Not many tech companies have survived that long. Many companies have come and gone, regulations, founders, investors, everyone come and gone. We're still there, right? And the reason for that is we just have always over-indexed on over-communicating with our team.
Yeah. If I could just add to that, Kunal talked about communication. I think one additional element to that is what is the pride quotient you're building in your organization? I think that goes a long way. And I remember
what is a pride quotient?
Quotient.
Okay.
Right. And I remember Kunal, always speaking in forums like these and town halls. I don't think I've ever heard Kunal say, at Snapdeal that, okay, we are an e-commerce company or we're building an e-commerce business. He would always say that, we're creating a platform for millions of sellers to impact their lives positively, right? Because by giving them access to, the entire marketplace. And that just flips it, right? Because then suddenly there's a far more meaning to that techie who's sitting inside room or the supply chain person, because they know that what they're building is, creating impact and is way beyond just one company. And obviously we reinforce that over and over again, as he said, by over-indexing on communication, that just I mean, the hustle which you talked about is just a byproduct of it, because then there's a far bigger meaning to why you're doing what you're doing, right? So I think that goes a long way in building a organization.
Now, as Kunal said, we'll want this to be interactive, so you guys can start thinking of your questions, all right? But I'll ask one last question. One of the biggest or most often asked questions here on campus is like, I have this idea, Pratham, but how do I know this is the idea I should run with? Can you give me some feedback? Can you give me some validation? And I never know how to answer that question.
It's one of the toughest questions. I always say that the journey of an entrepreneur is going to be long. It's going to be, ups and downs, twists and turns, a lot of battle scars along the way, a lot of moments of agony, a lot of moments of despair, a lot of moments of wanting to give up, but also moments of euphoria and success and feeling elated and feeling that what you're doing has purpose. Many times, especially in today's day and age where there is a lot of focus on like everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, everyone wants to succeed, raise money, win awards, like be on newspapers or wherever, and folks are in a rush, and you don't need to be in such a rush, because the journey of entrepreneurship is over 10, 15, 20, maybe 25 years. You can spend maybe 5% of the time on the pick, what you're actually going to do. I often see founders who spend 1 week or 2 weeks deciding what they want to build for the next 10, 15 years. That just doesn't sound right. It's okay to take a step back and say you're going to spend maybe up to 5% of your, let's say you're going to run a company for 10 years. Spend 3 months, 4 months, 5 months just thinking about all the options that you have, testing them out, talking to people about them, researching. You have this great thing called Chat GPT or Grok 3 or Perplexity, whatever floats your boat. And just be very sure. Because especially in the early days of entrepreneurship, what happens is when you start something, there's a lot of euphoria. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of enthusiasm in you and the team. It's going to work. We're going to do it. And then almost every company I've been involved with goes through a valley of death, right? Where there is despair. And suddenly it's not looking as rosy as you thought it would be. Suddenly you're realizing the idea has too many chinks. Suddenly too many people around you are telling you that what a bad idea this is. You should just give it up and go back to whatever you're doing. Every company, with almost no exceptions, in my experience, goes through that valley of death. At that point, when you're at the bottom of the abyss, to find the courage to continue, you need to have deep conviction in your idea. And that deep conviction in your idea usually only comes if you actually put in the work before you got into pursuing the idea. And so that's the best I can tell you. Outside of that, most advice I feel, which is more macro and generic, is usually quite garbage-like. In the end, the best advice is situation specific. So we always say, people ask us all the time, oh, what's the latest trend you're going to invest in? It's the question I get asked 5 times a week. What's the new trend? What's the hot trend? It's like, guys, we don't invest in trends. We don't focus on the macros. We focus on the micros of a business. And hence, all advice should be given looking at the micros of the situation.
Context of the founder and the company. Got it. One last question. You've backed so many founders. A lot of your companies have gone public. I think last year was a great year for the fund. What have you found as the common thread, the common feature amongst the founders who have done well versus the companies that have not? Is there a trend that you've found?
Yeah, I think there are a few trends, but none of these are the only attributes or
without exception
or sufficient attributes, but there are some attributes. I would say some of the attributes in no particular order. First is just focus, right? The best founders tend to have incredible amount of focus because there's going to be so much distraction around you all the time. So many new businesses coming up in the adjacencies of your business that will tempt you. Let me add that also to my focus. But that means you're not focused. That means you're distracted. So it's important to stay focused. Just once you've decided what you're going to do, you got to put the blinders on and just keep going. Secondly, I think if I ask you, A for? Exactly. Do none of you know A also astrologer, astronaut. There's so many other words that start with A. Why do we say A for apple? Because we learned that in the first 5 years of our life, the formative years of our life. Unit economics and discipline around unit economics in a business are exactly like that. In the formative stages of your company, if you have discipline around unit economics, which almost all good founders have, that tends to endure over most of the life cycle of the company. And it's very hard to reverse it. If you don't have the discipline, it's very hard to bring that discipline in later on. There are always going to be exceptions, but I can tell you 95% of the time, the trajectory that good founders set for the economics of the business early on the business tends to follow that same arc. And it tends to be very hard to change that arc later on. And thirdly, I think if there is one attribute I've seen, is their ability to be very resilient. So oftentimes we are backing founders who are 25, 27, they haven't, or 23 or 20 also, or 18 in some cases. There isn't a lot of, proof point in their professional journey yet, where they haven't done a lot of stuff. So we tend to but we still look for some area where they've exhibited success or excellence in life. It could be that they went to Masters Union, right? That could be obviously
Absolutely.
one big determinant, but not everyone has that privilege. So we look for other things like art, music, cricket, some other sport, something where they exhibited some amount of excellence. Because to be excellent at anything, you need to know how to be focused on it, and to be also extremely resilient, because to pursue anything in life, excellence in anything in life, there'll be twists and turns. So you've learned how to have courage to continue when things are not working for you. And that is such an important attribute of entrepreneurship, because things are usually not going as per plan. Usually they are not going as per plan, and yet you need to have the courage to continue because you believe that you want to get to the finish line. So these are some of, in no particular order, some of the attributes.
All right, sounds good. Guys, I would love for you to ask questions. All right, okay, go ahead. Over there. Yeah. Go ahead.
We're in the startup phase, and it's me and 5 other guys from my college, and we're all 18. We're all from different parts of the world. Each of us is from a different country. So now we're in this cold startup phase, where it's like we're putting in the work, but no tangible result is coming out, or like there are these sparks of productivity and there's these weeks of just zilch, like nothing happening. And it feels like the motivation is not the problem. We're all really motivated. We have an amazing idea. We're building this supplement brand first time in India. And so everything's going well, but it just feels like there's nothing tangible output coming out, or there's always some roadblock, something always stopping us. So how do we come over this phase? How do we get out of this phase? Especially because we're in a time crunch. We're only in India for the next 4 months.
Got it. Yeah, again, as I was saying earlier, I'd love to understand the details, but just generic question will get a slightly generic answer also. But are you selling already?
No, we're not.
That's the problem. How many months have you been working on it?
So it's been a month and a half. And
then that would be a little harsh. So, I think it's too soon for you to start passing judgment on your business, right? If it's been all of 6 weeks since you started working on it, it's too soon. I totally understand the feeling that you are going through. Like, I know, because I've gone through that, not for weeks, but for months, in some cases years, where it feels like there is a lot of distance that you're covering, but there's no displacement. It's like running on a treadmill. You're sweating really hard, but you're still running at one point. Right? So I know the feeling. Trust me, I do. That said, in entrepreneurship, you can't get impatient after 6 weeks of work. You got to have a better temperament than that, right? Because sometimes the success is literally just around the corner. It's literally just around the corner, and you can't give up before you turn the corner. So just keep going. I think 6 weeks is too short a period of time to pass judgment either way on any business. The only thing I would say is that try what may be helpful for others also. Try and get the product out as soon as possible. There's sometimes this phase of wanting to be perfect before you launch that founders want to go through. But soon they realize that progress is more important than perfection. And for progress, you need to get the product in the hands of the customers so that you have real feedback. like Rohit and I were building our coupon book, which is how we started. It was called Money Saver. You have terrible coupons and you get a discount at a restaurant. For 1.5 years, we were just building the coupon book. And we convinced ourselves this is going to be the best business ever, ever, right? Like we're going to sell 1 million copies in the first year of operations. And we spent 1.5 years somehow assuming that we will sell 1 million copies at 500 rupees each. So this will be like a huge business, like 50 crore business, right? We sold a grand total of 50,000 copies at 50 rupees a piece, right? After 1.5 years of putting in the work. And the learning from that was maybe we had like this grand idea, we should have 500 merchants and only then will it make sense for someone to pay 500. Maybe the better idea would be to have 50 merchants and release it for 50 rupees, right? And start getting feedback and feedback loops faster. So that's the only recommendation I would have for you and for anyone else who's in the early stages of building. Just get it out.
Great question.
Quick follow-up. So, I mean, yeah, I get the 6-week thing. It's not about patience, but the thing is like, we're only here for the next 3 months. So it's like, we're pushing ourselves to like do it quicker. Like whatever normal businesses do it in 2-3 years scale, we want to do it in like 2-3 weeks scale. So this is the only problem.
But what do you want to achieve in 3 months?
In 3 months, we don't want to become a unicorn or something. That's obviously not possible.
I don't like that word anyways, which we'll talk about. Yeah.
$1 billion company. But at least in the next 3 months, we want to be able to start selling our product, and we want to at least start, understanding what our target demographic is. And
I think in 3 months you can probably do that. But maybe you're saying the same thing I was saying, that in the end, in 3 months, just try and get the product out in the hands of people. But if you're thinking that in 3 months you're going to build a lasting, enduring enterprise, it's not going to happen. Like you got to commit to something for a longer period of time. Entrepreneurship is hard. There's a lot of competition in anything that is worthwhile to pursue. And it's very hard to say that magically in 3 months we're going to build a large, enduring, profitable business. I think I would just say if you want to build this as a company you guys want to build for the next 5-10 years, then have a longer horizon. Or have more modest goals in the next 3 months. That what do you want to achieve? Maybe just get a product out in the hands of 100 customers, start getting feedback and decide whether you want to pursue this as a long-term business or not.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can pass the mic down to your friend there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hey Kunal, I'm Sarthak, and my question for you is, as both a founder and an investor, what's the biggest gap you see between how early stage startups pitch to investors and what investors are actually looking for? And one more thing, what's the one underrated thing that makes or breaks a deal?
So, I'll go with the second one first because I tend to forget the first question by the time the second question is asked. Yeah, I'm getting old now. But we are actually quite blessed at Titan, to be honest, that usually when we give an offer to a founder, they take it. So I can't say I speak from experience, but I kind of know what it takes, right? Why there is sometimes a gap and what does it take to bridge that gap. Actually the best founders want to work with investors who they think genuinely believe in the company, genuinely believe in the team, are willing to commit to the long run. The best founders I've seen don't nickel and dime on valuation. They don't nickel and dime, right? Like they are dilution sensitive, but they are not so dilution sensitive that they are only there to pick the highest valuation being offered. They are able to find a good balance between knowing that maybe the best investor or the right investor, there's no concept of best, but the right investor for their business is probably someone who's not offering the best valuation. And that is okay. Because in the long run, it doesn't matter. If the company works out and the founder owns 30% instead of 32%, it's really not going to make a difference. And that is actually an attribute we've seen. Founders who tend to do a lot of gajar mooli, a lot of vegetable market negotiation. I've generally seen that behavior tends to manifest then in the way they run the company also. They're being penny-wise, pound-foolish with employees, with partners, with customers, with everyone. And that usually is not a great way of building a business. You got to have a wider aperture of looking at building the company, whether it is picking investors, picking partners, picking team members, so on and so forth. And the first question was, which I forgot.
First question was, what's the biggest gap you see on how early stage startups pitch to investors and what investors are actually looking for?
Yeah, correct. Well, actually, every investor is looking for different things, and there are multiple. The great thing about investing is there are multiple ways of being successful, right? There's no one way of being a good investor or a successful investor. There are many ways, and at least I can tell you from our perspective what are reasons why we may not be interested in investing is when a founder shows up with, here are three things I'm trying, one of them will work, right? So that doesn't interest us. It may interest other people because we like founders to, as I said earlier, invest in the pick, put in the work. You're going to spend the most precious commodity of your life on this, your time, and that time will not come back. So if you're going to be investing your time, we want you to be very, very focused on what you're going to be spending it on. We are only spending money, right? And we have a portfolio. This is your all eggs in one basket. Years of your life that are never going to come back if they're gone waste. So you got to have that level of intensity on the pick. And so if there are too many things going, I'll try 5 things, maybe one thing will work and that'll become my business. That usually is not for us. Second is just lack of discipline around what the shape of the P&L should look like. A founder can't say that today I'm a 20% gross margin business, but once the business becomes large with economies of scale, like big MBA words, we'll become a 60% margin business. It will never happen. It doesn't happen. 20% margin business becomes a 60% margin business only if the business changes. The same business never becomes that. And the margins are the soul of a business. You can't change the soul. So making sure that this is a founder who understands what the shape of this business's P&L looks like, even if it doesn't have heft today. It may be a small P&L, small revenue, 2 lakh rupees of revenue, doesn't matter. We are not deterred by size of the business, but we are deterred by the lack of shape in the business's P&L, right? And the third, now that you ask, I'll give you full answer, is there's this obsession in a lot of VC and founder literature of big TAM. Like VCs often show like big TAMs, right? Like that, those big circles, 100 billion market, 10 billion, 20 billion, Samsung, seem like all these like Chinese sounding names. But I just say, like, why bother? You're going to have like a little bit of money, like maybe 4 or 5 crore rupees for your seed round, like 2 founders and 3 interns. How does it matter whether it's a 10 billion market or 5 billion or 2? All of it is irrelevant. So we actually push founders to identify a laughably small TAM, like such a narrow sliver of a market, because that's all you can dominate at the earliest stages. You really can't dominate anything else. But once you dominate that sliver of a market, like Mamaearth did with mosquito repellents for children, it's a 50 crore market in a 4 trillion GDP. That's called a laughably small TAM. But they built consumer love in that market, and the consumers gave them the opportunity to expand their TAM into baby shampoo, baby oil, then products for the mother and father, and then new brands. So these are the attributes that we largely look for.
Thanks. Go ahead. This person. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Ankur. So you said you should raise the bar when you're hiring the employees. I have a question here, because while it is always great to have exceptional talent, they come with their cost as well. So when you're building up, when you're very low in terms of your resources, how do you manage that in the beginning? Because these people will come with a certain amount of cost with them.
Yeah, thanks, Ankur. I don't fundamentally agree with the premise of what you just said. I personally feel that the world's a very different place today, because the amount of information, amount of knowledge, look at the content Masters Union is creating and exposing you guys to, and so much more content that is available. Like, I'm sure this is going to turn into content too. So
You bet.
As it should. I feel that the level of sophistication, level of maturity goes up in geometric progression at the early days of people. we no longer live in a country where, there was always this truism of wisdom only comes with age. I don't think so. I meet plenty of 21-year-olds who are incredibly wise. Plenty of them. The question is, are we willing to put in the effort to find them? Right? So I always have a bias for hiring younger, smarter, hungrier people. And many times I see they have less baggage, more hunger, and more desire to succeed, more desire to learn, more humility than more seasoned people who come with like, I need to hire 5 people under me before I get anything going. Right? So I have a fundamental belief, everything we do, we try and just bring new people. Whenever we're bringing new people, I try to index more on bringing younger people. But the bar stays high for them. Just because they're young, I'm not going to lower the bar.
Riyansh, go ahead. Just pass the mic back.
Hi sir, I'm Rayansh.
अब देखे देखे लग रहे हो.
Sir, I finally have the answer to कितने transistors थे.
Too late, man. I didn't want to trap you, but you got trapped.
Right. Perfectly fine. So my question to you is that beyond traction and team, what is the strongest indicator that you look in startups that are venture backable, especially for Titan Capital?
You're saying what is the metric we look for?
So beyond traction and team, उसके अलावा third वाला क्या आप देखते हैं?
Beyond traction and team, I would say their right to win in a market. Because the good and bad about the Indian market, and not merely Indian, I think anywhere in the world, is that there is such symmetry of information right now that there are fewer and fewer secrets. At a time when there are more secrets, it's not fun and easier to build a business because other people don't figure it out. By then you're already a certain scale and you have some other heft and moats around your business. These days, cost of software engineering is going down with all the agents like companies like Lovable, Cursor, etc. You can now just build so much faster. So it's no longer that someone has a 6-month start. Like a 6-month start means nothing nowadays. Nothing. Zero. Even a 1-year start almost feels nothing right now. So what we look for is, in addition to traction and team, which are both extremely critical, and if we don't feel convinced till there, we won't even come to the third one. The right to win, the right to scale first is something we look for. Because almost every idea that is worth pursuing, I can tell you there are 10, 20, 30 people pursuing it at the same time. But not everyone breaks out and moves to the next orbit. So we are looking for companies who have the early activation energy and have the right team and have some unique insight or execution ability or network or something that will help them to be the first to jump to the next orbit.
So on that note, I'm going to be a bit selfish here. Is it possible if, actually, Memotag has made a lot of progress since I actually pitched on Shark Tank.
Okay.
So is it possible if we can talk later about it? I can pitch it
just
to you.
Send me an email. My email is not hard to find, but so that you're not anyone, like I get a lot of pings on social media, etc. It's my email is kb@titancapital.vc.
Can someone please
Just
note
my
that down?
initial. It's kb@titancapital.vc.
I'm sorry, kb@titancapital.
.vc.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, very easy.
Awesome. Go ahead. Shayan.
I think the people who sit in the center are clearly advantaged.
Yeah, sorry.
you don't even sit that side.
I will come back this side next. I promise.
Getting a lot of dirty looks from there.
So with revenues, profits being very important metrics for a successful business, how do you go about when investing in companies and talking with the founders about how do you measure and take decisions in a company, focusing on maximizing that or focusing on the product, service, or impact that company is creating? How do you balance that, especially with financial pressure, maybe?
Again, I would say that it's not like these are all mutually exclusive, right? There is, if you were to plot all these Venn diagrams, there are intersection areas between all of them. But look, at the end of the day, one thing we are very clear about, and again, as I said, every investor has a different approach, because we are both investors, operators. We know what our special sauce is. Our special sauce is we navigate companies, whether they are our own or whether they are our investee companies, where we have to work through the founders because we're not running them ourselves. We always try to navigate these companies through the P&L. Some investors are product visionaries, where they will work with the founder to, like, do a lot of crystal ball gazing as to here's what the product roadmap looks like, etc. That is not our strength, and we are very cognizant of that. But what is our strength is incredible amount of operating rigor, and rigor through the P&L, like tracking it, firstly maintaining it, and then thereafter tracking it, identifying where are we lacking, are the margins going down, margins going up, why is that, where do they need to go to, are we spending too much on marketing, too little on marketing, are we hiring too many people, too few people. That is our special sauce, and we've seen that is a repeatable formula of creating successes, whether in businesses we build or businesses that other founders that we partnered with are building. And I think we were talking about attributes about successful founders or founders whose companies work out a little bit earlier. And I can tell you that one of the common threads between every company that we have backed that has succeeded is around discipline of maintaining a monthly P&L, a monthly MIS, monthly P&L. I have not seen a single company, not even one example of a company in our portfolio. We funded 285 companies over the last 14 years. I have not seen a single successful company that didn't have the rigor of maintaining a monthly P&L, which was sent religiously around the 20th, 25th of the subsequent month of the year. And if there's one takeaway for all those who are building businesses here, I would say that should be it.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Well,
Muskan this side.
hi.
Sir, as you said, you do not like the word unicorn. I'm sure you like the word Indicorn.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Right, sir. Which truly is India's economic backbone.
Yeah.
What do you think is the mindset shift that today's Gen entrepreneurs need from not just chasing the valuations game, but actually building profitable businesses?
You're saying what the founders need to do?
What is the mindset shift that we need to not just chase?
I think I'm really happy that you're familiar with this concept, right? That's a start. And I try to be shameless about promoting this concept for others who don't know. How many of you know about this phrase Indicorn? Yeah, so great opportunity to do some more marketing. So, this unicorn thing I've been hearing now for a good part of a decade and a half. This obsession with unicorns. And I always feel like, but why? Firstly, it's a mythical creature none of us have ever met or seen, and will likely never meet or see. It's in a currency that is not ours. It's dollars. I mean, we are in India. We're building businesses in India. It should be rupees, right? This 8,600 crores, right, which is what a unicorn value is. Why? Why that number? Like just because it's a large number? And finally, valuation. Because valuation in a private company is essentially one investor saying, I think you're worth this much. And maybe nobody else in the world feels that you're worth that much, but if one guy says you're worth that much, suddenly you're a unicorn, you're crowned a unicorn. Seems a really superficial way of looking at value creation in businesses. Conversely, I feel that what our ecosystem right now needs is essentially a bedrock of revenue-rich businesses which are also profitable. So, and I was like, how do I get this concept across to people? I was like, look, let's fight a phrase with a phrase. Maybe that's the way to do it. So I came up with this term called Indicorn, which is not very innovative, but maybe a little innovative, where it is basically 100 crore revenue business, which is profit-making, started in the last 15 years. I feel rather than having 500 or 1,000 unicorns with these yo-yos of valuation that happen, and press goes to field saying now a unicorn and now not a unicorn, now a unicorn again. It's nonsense. I have rarely seen a company that gets to 100 crores of revenue and profitability ever go in reverse direction. It's very rare. It happens. Usually some governance issue, people fought, regulatory issues, but those are rare, like happens in less than 5% or less than even 2-3% of the cases. Most of those companies, once they're at 100 crores of revenue and are profitable, firstly, they're Atmanirbhar. They are now not dependent on anyone else. They don't have to waste any time running around investors. They don't have to attend talks like these, right? They can just focus on building their business. And in the end, they are the lasting, enduring businesses that will go public and will form, as I said, the bedrock of India's economy over the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years. So I feel that's what we need, and that's what we need to celebrate. That's what people like me need to celebrate. People like Pratham, Saurabh, all of you need to say, I will first build a Indicorn, and then maybe someday someone sees so much value, sure, I'll become a unicorn. But my first port of call is becoming an Indicorn. And when at Titan we assess companies, early stage, seed stage companies, without saying it in as many words, I know what Rohit and I are thinking and our team is thinking, that in a 3, 4, 5-year horizon, can we look into a crystal ball and see this business becoming an Indicorn or not? If we can, we are in.
Just one thing I'll add. I was in a session with Mr. Mohandas Pai yesterday, and he asked the audience, and the audience was almost 50, 60 unicorn founders, right? And he said, what's the profit of Infosys? He asked them. Does anyone know? The profit that Infosys posts annually, around 27,000 crores. That's the profit, okay? And if you accumulate the profit of all the unicorns of India, it's not even 10% of that. Right? Probably lesser than that. And that's really what I think you're trying to say, right? I mean, of course, unicorns are great companies to follow, to take inspiration from, but India also has these amazing stories, in the form of TCS, HCL, all of these amazing companies that are super profitable and have sustained the test of time.
So we publish an annual list. We started publishing it last year. We're going to publish another one, this year's list, in a few months. It's called Indicorns.club. There are 187 Indicorns in India already. So it's not like there are like 2 or 3. There is a sizable number already, and there will be more in the future. So, my only hope, wish, dream is that all of you go build Indicorns.
All right, this side, we'll come. Go ahead.
My name is Siddharth Shiva. My question is, sir, what went wrong with Snapdeal? And what went wrong with the individual experiences of all the stakeholders of Snapdeal?
So, I don't think the right way to put it is something went wrong. Every business goes through its ups and downs, right? There was a time where maybe you only know of a certain period of time about the business. But there were times when we have seen real lows, even before that, but we came out of it every time. What happens is when your dependency on external capital goes up, you are really susceptible as a company. And hence, I try to push founders to become capital independent, where they should no longer be dependent on other people's money to grow their businesses. And that was the zone we got into, where we became overly dependent on other people's money to grow our business. But it's not like, there are all kinds of phases that a company goes through. But you should not cry over spilt milk, right? Whether it was our problem, someone else's problem, whoever precipitated the problem is almost unimportant at this point. What is important is that if you have built something which has value, identify the kernel of what you've built which is still working. So when a business goes through its twists and turns, it doesn't mean the entire business is garbage, right? Like we tend to try to put things in a 0 or 1 usually, but it's never like that. The truth is somewhere always in the middle. So what we did is what I can tell you. We took a step back, and we said, this is now many years ago, we said that, look, guys, the journey we were on earlier, if we want to be on that journey, we will require a lot of capital. That capital doesn't seem to be forthcoming now for a wide variety of reasons. What should we do? Should we shut it down? That is one option. But if we don't want to shut it down, and Rohit and I don't have failure as a term in our bodies, like we have a manufacturing defect. So we were like, no, shutdown is not an option. We have to keep going. So then you reinvent yourself. Then you say, okay, what do I need to do in my business so that I can keep going without depending on other people for capital that keeps my lights on and keeps my salaries going? So what we did was we looked at our business in two parts. What are the islands, the malignant islands, the islands of losses in the business, certain categories, mobile phones, electronics, which we felt could never make money because there's just acute amount of competition on very low margins. And then there were islands of profitability, like fashion and home and though beauty, personal care, where the margins were high and the margins and we were making money. And we took the decision of saying, look, the only way we're going to make it out of this is if we cut the islands of losses out. Hard decision, but seems like we don't have an option. A lot of people told us, guys, if you cut out these what you're calling malignant islands, these are gateway categories that people buy a phone and then buy other things. Nobody will buy anything. So you'll anyway shut down. Like, well, we don't have an option. We have to do it. And that's what founders have to do. There are many times you're literally given only one door. You've got to walk through only that one door and make it work. To present day, we took those decisions, took a lot of other hard decisions. Now to present day, in arguably the most competitive e-commerce market on the planet, for 9 years, we've raised zero capital. During that period, we created another business, Unicorns, which we took public last year within the same group. Like it's a subsidiary of Snapdeal. It was the second most subscribed IPO of 2024. It was oversubscribed 170 times. First SaaS company to list in India. Nobody gave us a chance that in this troubled business, they will actually create one more business, which they will go public, take public, and create so much wealth. Not only that, Snapdeal now ships millions of orders a month. It may not be folks like us who are buying, but in small towns, tier 7, 8, 9, 10 towns, we're shipping millions of orders a month without the need of external capital. And we did that, we are doing that with just 250 people in the business. To be able to operate a business in the most competitive e-commerce market on the planet without raising a single rupee of capital in 9 years and yet having substantial scale required a Herculean effort by our team. But you do that because you believe. You believe, and one, you believe that you don't want to go out of business, and secondly, you believe that you can do it and your team can do it. So, moral of the story is don't give up.
Just hold on. So, Kunal, it's 7 p.m. All right.
Maybe a couple more questions.
Couple more questions. All right. Who else? Yeah, go ahead. Just right behind you. It's okay. Yeah, right here. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi, I'm Tanya. So question to the panel. Basically, you were talking about teaming and how you make it the team's mission to solve for the same problem. And what we see quite often but not, the grass gets greener somewhere else and the team leaves. So just wanted to know your hack on how to keep the human capital intact and apart from the rewards and recognition.
Here's the expert. He will answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to index to the point which I made earlier on that, what is that pride quotient which you're building in your organization, right? If your people believe in what is getting built out, what they're creating has a bigger meaning to than just the rewards and recognition you talked about, I think the stickiness is going to be way higher than, just grass being on the greener side. So if you make it more transactional, which is try to retain folks or bring in people only with the rewards, recognition, or the carrots as they call it, stickiness is not going to be there, right? Because somebody's going to outmatch that for sure, right? So the tougher one, the bigger one is really the fact that, what are you talking about in terms of that pride which you're building together as a team, right? So Kunal talked about Snapdeal and the turnaround, right? And that is something which keeps, I'm sure, the team going even now, right? Because that's a huge thing which is difficult to even replicate, right? So I think if you can create that ecosystem in your organization, invariably the people whom you want to stick around and be with you in that journey will remain. So that's really what
I have a follow-up to that. Some people say that your team should be like a sports team. And then some people say your team should be like a family. Right? What have you found as his leadership style? And what was it at Snapdeal?
I think...
I can leave, Saurabh.
No. No. I think it's really a combination of believing in your team as people who have the maturity and wherewithal to take that organization forward, and having that trust with them is really what matters. Now, what do you do to build that trust? Do you want to coin a sports team or you treat them family is I think it's irrelevant. But how do you build that culture of trust, transparency, and mutual respect with each other, that we are in this together to make it happen? I think that's what matters. Nomenclature really doesn't matter. So every founder I have worked with has a different way of bringing that alive. But that's, to me, is really what matters, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, I think if I could just add to that, like, I have a really, really fundamental belief that most people don't know their own potential. And I almost feel that everyone I work with has so much more potential that even they think they have. And as a leader, you just got to give them the space. You got to set the clear boundaries, like what is it that we are doing together, and just give them the space. Keep encouraging them. Be there to be the foil for them if something goes wrong. They should know that you are that soft cushion under them if they fall. They should know that nobody has to say it. I don't have to say it to them. They don't have to say it to me. But through your actions, through your day-to-day interactions, through the frequency of your interactions, they just need to feel that this is someone I can trust. Right? If I fall, this guy will catch me. Right? They just know that. And they know that about me, Rohit. They know that, and they've known that for years. And when that level of trust exists, and you give people like a broad agenda, big agenda, something big to deliver, and enable them, I have always been amazed how great people are, how amazing they are at achieving things even they didn't think they could achieve. Right? Like Saurabh did amazing things at our company that I could have never imagined. He built the backbone of our company. You know, the median tenure of a person in our company, this is on LinkedIn, is 6 years. All my DRs, my reports, have been with us from anywhere from 5 to 12 years. Many of them were hired when Saurabh was there, right? And he played an instrumental role in that. And it's not like we pay the most. I'm very certain everyone who works with me, works in our company, if they floated their CV, someone will pay them more, or many people may pay them more. Yet they choose to work with us. Not because of what we pay only, or we pay well, right? Like, we pay well, but I can't say that we pay the most. And nobody can claim that, because there's always some guy willing to break the line and say, I'll pay this guy, this person more. But the key is to build that environment of trust, environment of belief, environment of, here's a big thing we need to get done. You are on point for doing that. If something goes wrong, I'm here to help you.
On that note, we'd love for Saurabh to please unveil the book. This is.
Let's do that together.
Yes,
Pratham.
absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank
and,
you. Thank you very much. Come on. Right. This is a little surreal now.
There we go. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Kunal. Thank you.